Disclaimer, excessive rambling through this video. I know I ramble a lot, but there's way more in this one, so be prepared. Sadness befalls on us all. A heart-wrenching movie, super sad. I cried for hours from this movie. So heart-wrenchingly sad because it is a bad movie, not good. You know, I happen to be a huge SpongeBob fan. I've covered it a lot on this channel, and this is a more unconventional video on the channel. I'd hate to scare away any of my new subscribers, but I huge SpongeBob fan. Freaking yellow dude. I grew up with SpongeBob ever since I was, me and SpongeBob started at the same time, you know. I was the perfect age to watch this yellow square start off on his rising adventure. And you know, the movie was announced last year and I got really excited for it. I was really looking forward to sitting down and watching this thing. And then the pandemic happened, and then all the movie theaters were closed and the movie got delayed. I'm like, okay, whatever, I'm a patient man, I can wait. And then like literally today it got announced on Netflix. It got a Netflix release. I'm like, well, yo, son of a gun, I own Netflix. I don't actually, I use my parents, but I have Netflix. I have access to what's on that. So I gave it a watch. It is not accessible in the United States. First off, USA and Canada can't watch this. And I think it already came out in Canada in theaters. It was the rising idea. So yes, it's not in the USA, US of A, but it's all over the other world. So as a side note, yes, I downloaded a VPN, not a sponsor. It was just very useful. I downloaded it and then I changed my region to Europe, and then you can watch the movie from there. And I gave it a watch today. So I watched it today. And I got some opinions on it. I'm a pretty optimistic dude, all things considering, especially when it comes to SpongeBob. I love my boy. I love my little square dude. He's a funny, great dude that I grew up with, and I had high expectations for this film. And watching it right off the bat, the first 20 minutes, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this. Again, I tend to be very optimistic when it comes to a movie. I guess the best place to start is with Steven Hillenburg himself, who tragically passed away last year due to some form of disease. It struck the internet by storm. That was maybe the first death of an artist that I had personally felt. You know, it was tragic. Everyone felt it all over the world. Everyone felt Steven's death, right? And Steven Hillenburg, great man, had a very few select rules for his character that he created. He said, number one, no spin-offs. For as long as I live, there will never be a spin-off. Well, he passed, so Nick was like, okay, alright, he's gone. What can we start with? Talk show hosts? Let's give Patrick a talk show. Let's give Squidward his own side series, allegedly. I don't know if that's still a thing. Let's make Camp Coral an origin story. That interferes with a lot of the SpongeBob canon. SpongeBob canon's not that important. It really isn't. It gets retconned all the time. It's not a huge branching story, but they're like, let's give him an origin story because we're doing that for everyone this year. Scooby-Doo, we're giving an origin story. So yeah, they're making a side series called Camp Coral, and they're trying to release it. It's gonna be all CGI, and I have no grievances with Camp Coral. I was gonna give it a watch, but specifically, Steven Hillenburg did not want this. He did not want Camp Coral, and I completely understand. With his passing, Nick saw this, I'd hate to say saw this as an opportunity, but I can't be for sure if any of this movie was still being produced as Steven Hillenburg was still alive, because it had a huge development cycle, and the original movie was dreadful. It had to do with cats. It's called A Wonderful Sponge. It was not good. It was not good. I watched some of the early footage or concept art of it, and it was just all over the place. I'm like, no matter what, we're gonna be getting a better movie than what that had promised us. And this was a bit of a better movie. I'm gonna try not to go into too much spoiler territory. Maybe I'll touch on a few key moments inside this film, my background turned off. That's fun. So yeah, I'm gonna not try to touch on too many spoiler areas that this film has, but I guess kind of be prepared for spoilers in the film. So yes, they canceled It's a Wonderful Sponge. They made this as a crossover for Camp Coral, as kind of like a this is where it all started kind of movie. I don't know if it needed to be made. As a huge SpongeBob fan myself, I was very excited for a third movie. This did not need to be presented. So the plot goes that Gary is missing. This King Poseidon guy, which has been remade like 3 times. Again, the plot doesn't matter in SpongeBob. We got the movie version, we got the show version, and then we got the third movie version. Weird. This whole movie is kind of like, not a retelling of the first movie, but it touches a lot of the key elements, but they miss the mark in a huge way. So they're like, alright, even the main characters are like, alright, it's a buddy story of Patrick and SpongeBob going on this huge adventure to Atlantic City with, you know, superstar Keanu Reeves. He's in this movie a lot. Be it he is, I do enjoy him inside this movie. He is in here a lot. And I think it's also kind of interesting to point out that in the first movie, Steven Hillenburg, he's like, when consulting like guest stars, like we got David Hasselhoff. We got David Hasselhoff in the first movie, and he was great inside the first movie. He was really enjoyable. Steven Hillenburg didn't want a whole lot of that inside the movie. One thing that he said inside the first movie was, I don't want all the mainstream people, whatever's popular at the moment, I want weirdos like you, to, you know, singers, the songs that they added, Ocean Man, they even had another like actor or another band play the ending credits. But yeah, he did not want a whole lot of normal people, so to speak. He said he wanted weirdos, and they got Snoop Dogg is inside this movie. And while David Hasselhoff was played off as a joke, Snoop Dogg does not need to be in this movie. He did not. He had a musical number with, I kid you not, the most out of place scene in this movie: ghost zombie cowboys. Out of place. It was weird. They had a zombie cowboy song. So yeah, they had that. They had all these different musical numbers from famous music and song over the years. And I have nothing wrong with that music. It's just like, it really defeated the purpose of the first movie. That was the big thing that Steven didn't want. He didn't want any of these people. And like, it wasn't Steven's project. It was not. Steven Hillenburg made SpongeBob. That is his project. And I love that. I don't think Steven had anything to do with this. Yeah, I think he passed, and I think they were like, okay, let's make our own thing. We really got to make SpongeBob our flagship character, right? And that's what SpongeBob is for Nickelodeon. The zombie scene ends, and SpongeBob is given like a courage coin, right? And they touch up on like the main conflict. Main conflict! Gary disappears. Someone took him. It was the King Poseidon freaking guy. He needs his face all moisturized, and Gary like moisturizes faces apparently very good. So he takes him. SpongeBob needs courage in order to like go grab. First movie, he wants to become a man. He wants to prove himself. He proves himself. Third movie, literally kind of a step down. He wants to have courage to go grab Gary. He heads that way, and we that's another thing. We've done the Gary is missing story. We've done Atlantis City story. We've even done like all the characters not knowing that they need SpongeBob in their lives, but they really do in another special. So this is like a collage of ideas that have already been presented, and it's sewed into this Frankenstein of a movie. And I don't want to be crazy critical. Movies are hard, and I can't make a movie. They're hard, they're challenging, and quite frankly, I don't think anything can step above the first movie. But everything that was going on, the stakes were way lower, and it was pretty abundant that they really wanted to make this movie just to advertise and present the idea, planting the seeds for Camp Coral. And you know, we get bits and pieces of Camp Coral inside the trailer where he meets Gary. And that's like briefly touched upon in this scene until the end, where SpongeBob and Patrick are on trial for stealing Fred the snail, which is Gary. So they're on trial, right? And then Squidward, Mr. Krabs, and Sandy all make it to Atlantic City, right? And same with Plankton, he's here too. And they give a little bit of a reference of the first movie with the sandwich. Got the Zat sandwich, and I was like, yo, alright, it's a sandwich. They did have a few references to old SpongeBob, and I enjoyed that. I did. I was like, alright, cool. Yeah, fan fodder. Here you go. So, you know, they had that. Make it to Atlantic City. They get there and they just start talking about how they met SpongeBob at Camp Coral. So it's planting the seeds. Do 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 do. So all of them are like communicating with how they met SpongeBob and how he was such a huge inspiration for him. How Sandy can't be a scientist because she lives in Texas. Sorry, Texans. You know, the reason why they made Sandy from Texas is because NASA was there and, like, they thought it'd be funny. I don't know, weird. And she's a squirrel. They're like, I'm a squirrel. I can't be a scientist. And SpongeBob's like, stop right there. You can be a scientist. And she's like, oh, God, maybe I can be a scientist because SpongeBob said that. No one wanted to be Patrick's friend, and then SpongeBob came along. SpongeBob said Mr. Krabs can open... This takes, like, literally, like, 20 minutes of the movie. It's an hour and 30-minute movie. So they literally stop in their tracks as they're trying to tell this kind of story. Just talk about Camp Coral. And they're like, yes, our great beginning. And there were a few scenes that I kind of liked. Like, Squidward. I thought he was adorable. I'm like, alright, yeah, I like Squidward. Because I don't want this to be too cynical, I am going to try to point out good things that I liked about the movie. Some jokes, like, I was like, okay, I kind of enjoyed some of the jokes. You know, I always loved Squidward, and seeing young Squidward, I was like, alright, I like that. That's kind of cute. They do this whole scene, and then they do this musical number, and then they take Gary, and then they try to do this great escape, and like some armor, and like jumping out of a tower. And then their car, like, leaves a character that they add inside this show every time. A character that they add in here, his name's Otto. He's a robot, and he keeps making a joke of just, you're fired. Like, the LOL random, like, malfunctioning robot, that's all he can say is, blah, 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 you're fired. And it's like, okay. Alright, cool. He leaves, he goes, they don't hop on, they all get surrounded. King Neptune's like, I want your snail. And SpongeBob's like, no, you can't have it. You know, all my friends came here, even though I might die a painful death. All my friends came here because they love me. And then King Neptune's like, I have friends too. And I'm like, freaking think of some meaningful conflict. Every single children's movie does this. It's I'm a 20-something-year-old man. I get it. This movie is not for me. This was not made for me. This is made for children. That's fine, that's fine. I get it. So yeah, they're like, nah, kids, I have friends. It turns out he doesn't have any friends. No meaningful conflict. Like the first movie where they're like, I want to be a man, but it turns out that you're a man if you just follow your gut. It's okay to be a kid. I like the first movie. That's basically what I'm saying. The stakes are a lot lower in this movie. Extremely lower. So yeah, the conflict, the ending conflict wasn't honestly that good. The SpongeBob offers to be his friend, and then he like rescues all the snails, and then at the end they all become like Bikini Bottom becomes this like snail refuge for all the snails that this king had like taken. I guess that's a spoiler, yeah? Yeah, spoiler. Okay. Slap the spoiler on there earlier in the video, Hayden. Anyways, so any other grievances? I have no problem with SpongeBob being in CGI. They made it work. It looked good. It was decent. It wasn't too bad. CGI movie, pretty run-of-the-mill movie that's kind of all over the place. They try to like manufacture like conflict between SpongeBob and Patrick too, and they even say it at like the beginning of the movie. They're like, you know, this is a buddy movie. You know, later down the line where we'll probably have a conflict. And then we'll realize that we can't do this without the other. And they try to do that, like, immediately. And they're like, alright, never mind, let's just... And then you think it's gonna come back later, and then it comes back later, when they're in jail. And they're like, you spent the coin that we earned, the courage coin, they spent the courage coin on gambling. right? And then, you know, the conflict starts between them, and then it just immediately resolves. Like, I don't know what changes to, like, get it resolved. Anyways, it happens immediately, and it's like, why try to manufacture this conflict that's just gonna solve itself immediately like that? It's a little gross. And then, you know, Sage, which is Keanu Reeves, he's like, dude, the coin didn't matter. This is a symbol for having courage. You know, it's a medal. You got it. So, again, weird. They had all these, like, promotional, like, they mentioned Skype and FaceTime. Weird. It's really weird seeing SpongeBob reference these things. Much like this video is pretty all over the place, conjointed, strange. Really weird and strange movie, and I can't recommend it. First movie was great, one of my all-time favorites. The second movie, I'm like, okay, you know, it's kind of all over the place, but it's still kind of good. You know, before they turned into superheroes, I was actually kind of having a little bit of fun with this movie. Third movie, I'm like, I don't know, man, this isn't looking great. I don't know, I'm a huge SpongeBob fan, and I can't recommend it to too many people. It's harmless. I will always have the original SpongeBobs in my life. First season, third season, second season. They'll always be there. You know, SpongeBob is never ruined because I just go back to that stuff. But they are trying to make him into this Mickey Mouse of a character and expanding his world. And it looks like 2020's Nick's really trying to pull through in 2020. They're doing a lot more reboots of shows and CGI characters, like Rugrats is coming back. It does suck that Steven Hillenburg didn't really want him trickling in these territories like Camp Coral, but I think Camp Coral's been announced for a while, even before Steven had passed. I'm not sure. Who's to say? This movie was in tribute to Steven Hillenburg and all he gave us. And it feels like they slapped that on there just to be like, well, this is for Steven. We're not going against Steven's, you know, wishes. This one's for him. This movie was made for him. It's like, yeah, that is cool, but I don't know. Was it really for him, or are you just trying to make a quick buck, Nickelodeon? No. Anyways, yeah, that's roughly everything that I have presented. I really didn't want to scare off any new viewers with content like this. I just got a recent handful of new subscribers, and I don't want to scare them off. So yeah, don't expect too much of these kind of videos. I really wanted to get it off my chest. Just a quick, like, impressions video on the movie. Maybe I'll talk about it, like, in detail when it comes out on DVD. I don't know. But thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of the film. Are you into it? Were you not into it? Are you conflicted? I'm pretty more on one side of like, this movie wasn't good. But yeah, I'll talk to you guys another time. Thanks for watching. I'll see you later. I'm gonna grab a snack.